Okay, so we have a clean example of a fire chicken today. WS6, a guy named Evan. Man, almost forgot. Nailed it in there. So this is a completely stock 113,000 mile LS1 T56 10 bolt combo. It has Deca 80s in it. It has a f1a blower on low boost and it is on straight pump gas. It has a Terminator X running on it, integrated, so everything else works awesome. And it has drop-in pumps. I believe it was Racetronics or similar, 340s or 380s. That's just the go-to. And it has a return rail set up on it. And he wanted to see how it would do. So we got it fired and rolling. And I tuned something very similar. I believe his name was Sean. C10 with an LSA blower, 80-pound injectors, 3-bar map, blah, blah, blah. All very, very similar. So, funny enough, Evan just did the Game Boy tune, just the beep bolt box, and he drove it like that. It drove really good. He drove it to the dyno and everything. So, I took Sean's tune and dumped it right in Evan's car. I just took out the 4L80E transmission stuff and turned off the flex fuel stuff. So that's it. And I fired it and it started and ran beautifully. We just had to make a throttle stop change, which I explained to people. 90% of Holly vehicles need that throttle stop adjustment to be perfect, or at least rein them into much more usable settings for the idle air and whatnot. So first hit, the fuel trims were amazingly close, like 2% everywhere, driving, cruising, everything. So I rolled in and they were good, but then up top it was throwing in 25%. Funny enough, the first hit made 550 wheel, and I'm like, man, everything looked good other than it adding, and I checked and fuel pressure was dipping a little bit. So we cleaned up the fuel, I threw a degree or two in it, and this car was picking up like 15 horsepower per degree, so it easily went up over to that low 600 mark, and we had to push for like the 617 or so. So I told him, and I backed it down a little bit. I'm like, this isn't worth pushing it into this. So the other neat thing was he was sponsored by Holly to do a Hooker Blackheart exhaust. So he did a lot of footage of me cruising. I did a lot of cruise tuning on this and turning on fuel decel and a lot of things to make it get good mileage because the tuning aspect of it took me 1 second. So I wanted to focus a lot of time on everything else. That's my fault for having a base that I worked on for a while. It was so close. Anyway, it made 12 pounds. Just under 12 pounds, like 11.8 at 7,000, and that's where we were cutting it off on the rev limiter. It was just starting to nose. It has a 224 cam. I'm unsure of the valve springs, but yeah, it did amazing on pump gas there. It's a big blower, but so the blower is laggy, like he said. I agree. It's a big blower for a small amount of horsepower and boost, but the cool part of that is it does it pretty easily, and it's linear, so it feels like just a big engine. It's not an obnoxious amount of boost, and on top of all of that, having the bigger head unit make the power later gets away from that way too much mid-range torque thing we always talk about that hurts these engines. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see that it's just a completely stock LS1 with a 224 cam and some fuel and decas, and blammo, that's what he's got. He is, considering doing like a plug-and-play flex item and maybe working on the tune a little bit. But I was like, just drive this thing for a while and enjoy it. So you guys get to enjoy it too. At the end of this blabbing, I'm just going to put the 5-minute or so clip he took of me just doing partial tuning and everything else, because why not? If you're interested in listening, there it is. See you later. Bye.